Hello, welcome to Go There on Fourth. I'm Pastor Jason Barnett, and this is my good friend, Reverend Andy Newman, joining us today. This is a podcast about faith, football, and fantasy football, and this is our Thursday edition, and we are going to be making some picks, sharing with you some of our struggles through our fantasy football season, and we might give you some advice too, whether it's good advice or bad advice. I don't know.
It's probably borderline bad.
Borderline bad, yes. I understand we're both pastors, so we catch as many games as we can on Sunday, but usually we're doing good if we get the Sunday night game in.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true. Very true.
Well, I'm glad to have you, Andy.
Good to be with you.
He's pastor here at the Eastland Park Church of the Nazarene here in Lexington. So if you live in the Lexington area, looking for a place to go Sunday morning, he'd love to have you. They start at 10:30. So check them out.
Yeah, come on and join us.
So let's jump right in, Andy. We're going to make some early picks for our Thursday night and Sunday night game.
Okay.
Thursday night and Sunday early games. Just so you know, I'm 24-23 on the season, so I'm just one game above 500. And last week I got whooped.
Well, at least you're 500 right now, a little over 500. I'm thinking my picks I'm probably going to be below 500 with you today. So, and just saying.
All right. First up, we're going to go with the Dolphins versus the Bengals. That's our Thursday night game tonight on Amazon Prime. I don't know about you. I've actually enjoyed, I don't know if you've watched any of the Thursday night ones, but I've enjoyed Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit together. I think they're a good team.
Yeah, I think they flow well together. Al Michaels is kind of classic voice for football anyway.
Yeah.
So, you think, and Herbstreit's got a good mind for the game.
Yeah.
So, he helps in that way a lot, just to see the game and speak to the game.
Yeah.
So I did have to get used to him being on a pro game,
not a
college game. But
I've seen him with so many college games.
Yeah.
But now, so Dolphins versus the Bengals. Tua, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is the big question in that one. I don't think it's going to matter though. I think the Bengals are kind of finally waking up, and so I'm picking the Bengals to win on a short week.
And they're at home, so I think that helps them too. They're in the jungle, so you got to think that they would finally get the cobwebs out and start playing well. And,
And at some point, the offensive line is going to come together. And the Dolphins have had a tough defense this year, but I don't know that they're quite to the level of some of the other talent that they faced this season. Although they did give the Bills havoc last week, so
they did.
All right, so Bengals, both of us, 100% on Bengals this week.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, I was poking fun at the Monday Night Countdown crew this week because they all went Giants, and I knew when I picked the Giants that they were going to lose at that point because when all the experts agree, usually we're wrong. But we're not experts. We're not football junkies, so maybe it won't work for us.
We'll see what happens.
All right, Vikings versus the Saints. I'm going with the Vikings.
I am too. I don't think the Saints have enough offense.
No, I don't either.
And their defense is not too bad, but the Vikings' offense has too many weapons. Now the key is will Cook play or not. So that is an issue. But Madison is just as good at running back in some ways as Cook is.
Absolutely. And also, as long as Kirk Cousins doesn't decide to keep throwing the ball to the one defensive back.
Yeah.
Like he did against the Eagles with Darius Slay. He was determined to throw Darius Slay an interception.
Yeah. I think he thought Slay was on his team. So it's in the wrong color, though.
All right. So both of us going with Vikings on that one.
Yeah.
Browns versus the Falcons. I'm going with the Falcons.
I got to go with the Browns here.
You got to go with the Browns?
I do, because I think the Browns' defense is pretty decent, even with Myles Garrett, kind of up in the air. But I also think that the way that the Browns play the offensive game, where they really chew up the time with the running game, I think the Falcons will struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my hesitation, I think the Falcons have a better defense than most people realize. And I think I don't know that anybody's going to really be able to truly stop the Browns' offense rushing attack because the 1-2 punch of Hunt and Chubbs. But I do think they'll be able to get some stops in there and make some key sacks when needed. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah,
should be a good one.
Time will tell.
Yeah, that one sounds like a better Monday night matchup than I think what we had this week. I can't remember who played this last week, but it was not a very good. Oh, the Giants and the Cowboys. I'd rather see the Browns and the Falcons. All right, Commanders versus the Cowboys. I went back and forth on this one for me, but I went with the Cowboys.
I did as well. I think they got some momentum, and the Commanders the first week they looked fine, the last 2 weeks they've not looked very good.
Yeah, I've been telling folks, welcome to the Carson Wentz roller coaster.
Yes, yeah, you know that very well.
As a Colts fan, you.
Yeah.
Still. All right, Seahawks versus the Lions. I'm picking the Lions. I actually like the Lions with Dan Campbell. I think they are well coached. They're starting to develop that grit and toughness. It's really coming out in the running game, I think. So.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the Lions. I guess the one big thing is whether Swift plays or not. But Williams is pretty good behind them. So and St. Brown was also dinged up. So that'll be interesting. But they have a lot of good weapons and they have a good offensive line too.
Yeah.
So I would agree, Lions in that one, and they're at home. So that
yes, and God love Geno Smith, but it's Geno Smith.
Yeah, it's Geno Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Titans versus the Colts, and I always share with everybody I'm a Colts fan. I bleed Colts blue. There's one team, no matter how irrational it is, I will never pick against, and it's the Colts. And although last week I picked the Colts to win, but it was mainly because of my fandom. It wasn't because I actually believed. So
I have the Colts winning as well. I really just don't like the Titans this year. Their defense is not too bad, but their offense. I mean, Tannehill's he's not played well the last season and a half, and they have a rookie quarterback that they have there in Willis, and so that they're just buying time really to make that transition. So I think the Colts, plus the momentum they got after winning last week, I think is a major deal for them. So
and what most people don't realize is that we got clobbered by the Jaguars. Is we were missing. I think Pittman was out. I think Pierce was out. We had a lot of missing pieces.
The defense, I think, what the linebacker for them?
Shaquille Leonard, which he's questionable coming into this game too, but he practiced yesterday, so that's a good sign. But right, I'm with you on the Titans too. I like Willis moving forward, but I think he's going to be a bit of a project because he came in that Buffalo game late and he did not look good tonight. But then again, they were playing Buffalo, so
it makes a difference.
So. Bears versus the Giants, man. This pick I don't feel good about. I picked the Giants.
See, I picked the Bears.
Yeah.
I think the Bears defense can do enough to stymie the Giants, just as the Cowboys defense did.
Yes.
The Cowboys defense, the pass rush was just relentless the other night.
Yeah.
And the Bears have some young talent that I think. I think one key though for them is whether or not their main running back plays. Herbert's not bad, but Montgomery is a pretty good back, and so if he plays, that'll help them in that way.
Yeah, I think what swayed me is the Giants' blitz attack with young Fields at quarterback. Now, where that could backfire though is if Fields gets out of the backfield and takes off.
Right.
Now, I don't think this is going to be a very high scoring game. I think it's going to be another slow.
Yeah, kind of like probably the 49ers. Of course, that was due to rain and water issues more so.
But so like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if I get this one wrong and that you get it right with the Bears. So we split on that one.
Yeah.
Jaguars versus the Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles. But the Jaguars keep surprising me. But I'm taking the Eagles because I think the Eagles are hot right now.
I went back and forth on this one. I really think that the Jaguars have a good chance. Plus, it's revenge for Doug Peterson.
That's true.
And their defense is pretty good,
right?
And really, I've heard a lot of people say this: they could win the South pretty easy.
Oh, I think so too.
I mean, just with the way things are, the Titans aren't very good. The Colts are mediocre.
Yep.
You
heard my feeling, but
I hate to say it to a Colts fan, but it's just the truth. So I think they're up and coming. Their offense with Lawrence kind of coming into his own.
Yeah.
They have Etienne and Robinson in the backfield. Kirk has been playing well. So I think they've got a lot of good pieces there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Jags, though I would not be surprised if the Eagles win this.
Yes. Which what surprised me, I knew the Jaguars were going to turn around, because coaching plays a big factor in that team right now. Yeah. But I didn't think that they would turn around this quickly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm still surprised at how terrible a disaster Urban Meyer was, but for them to turn around that quickly and so. Jets versus Steelers. I actually picked the Jets this one, which Andy here, he's a big Steelers guy. But the only reason I picked the Jets is Mitch Trubisky. That's where I'm concerned. I think if Pickett played, I would probably go the other way.
Yeah, the only one thing I will say, I picked the Steelers more out of just obligation more than anything else. I do think it does help them to be at home.
Yes.
And so I think the crowd will get into it. I also think that Trubisky's going to have to play with some urgency.
That's
because
true.
The drum line's getting louder in terms of calling for Pickett. And so even if he's not throwing interceptions, even if he's not turning the ball over, the lack of offensive production cannot be missed.
That's right.
And then I don't know if you can fully blame him for that. Right. The offensive line's not been very good. The run game's been very, very dismal at best. So, I mean, you have to look at all those things. I have the Steelers winning mainly because I'm giving them an edge because they're at home.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's probably going to start for the Jets.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, what does that do? What does it do for him?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Now, I will say that the Steelers' pass rush hasn't been the same since Watt. And if Watt was playing, to me, this would have been a no contest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what kind of puts it up in the air.
Yeah.
But TJ Watt is.
Yeah, he's TJ Watt.
He ruins everything for everyone else.
He does.
All right, Bills versus the Ravens. I took the Ravens in this one, mainly because the Ravens were at home.
I took the Ravens too, and I really feel like that as good as the Bills are not perfect, as no team is.
No.
And so I think for them to lose a game, as you said, the Ravens are at home. The Ravens have been playing pretty tough. I mean, they did lose to Miami.
Right.
That was a really weird game.
Yeah.
And so I think they can really pull it off. Plus, Lamar Jackson and some of the things they do there, I think will make a difference. And Dobbins, I think, is back this week.
Dobbins back. Oh yeah, that's going to help too.
Yeah. So that makes a difference.
Okay. Chargers versus the Texans. I want the Texans on this one mainly because I don't think Herbert is healthy. Because one, they didn't play very good last week, and not that the Texans are good, but I think they're good enough to beat a banged up Chargers offense.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing in a lot of ways, though. I picked the Chargers because I think they were really embarrassed by that loss last week, and so I think they come back. I mean, their defense is supposed to be really good. They did lose Bosa for the year. And
really?
They lost him for the year. I just read that yesterday. And then they also lost their left tackle, Slater, for the year, too. So that hurts because he's a young guy, but he's been almost an all-pro for them. So that obviously hurts them in that way. But I think after the embarrassment of last week, I think they bounce back. Not saying they're going to destroy them,
right?
But I think they will get the W.
Yeah. So I see we may agree theologically, but when it comes to football, we have some differences.
Take some stats, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and transition now. As I've told you, this podcast is faith, football, and fantasy football. And for the faith part this week, I've asked my friend Andy here to share a devotional with you all. So, Andy, what do you have for us?
When you asked me about this, which I was really excited about it, and I'm grateful to be with you on this, Jason. I was thinking about back when I started to play football. I was a freshman in high school, and I had played backyard football since I was a kid, but I had never played legitimate, team football. And so when I went out for the freshman team, I remember we were being taught, and I'm built as an offensive lineman, so that's where they were going to put me, offensive, defensive line. I was definitely not playing corner or safety or wide receiver or even running back. So even though I resemble the bus more than anything else, but I remember they put us on the offensive line, and one of the key things with offensive line is the whole key to the position is you're impeding someone else from getting to the running back, to the quarterback, whatever. You are blocking and impeding someone else from getting a handle on or getting a tackle.
Right.
And one of the problems, though, is that as you're doing that, are you going to be called for holding or not?
Yeah.
And that usually comes if you get your hands on the outside of somebody. That's where the holding calls really come, right?
Right.
But one of our coaches on the offensive line, he talked about how that, and especially in freshman high school football, your jerseys usually are not tucked in because they're usually the cutoffs. At least they were back then, right?
Yes.
And so one of the key things that he always taught us is that when you go to come off the line when the ball is snapped, that you actually go up underneath someone's jersey and get underneath their shoulder pads, and then you are able to drive them whichever way you want to go. So if you want to drive them away from the ball that's going left, you drive them to the right. And if you want to drive them to the left so they go right, you drive them to the left. But the key was to get up under the shoulder pads and push them away, right? And I remember that was such a technique because for me to learn to use your hands in football, you don't think about it a lot of times except for catching the ball.
Right.
But there are certain things that you need to do. Defensive linemen do it all the time. We were just talking about TJ Watt.
Yeah.
He's amazing at using his hands to get around defenders and other people, Donald and others. They just have a great way about that. But so often we don't think about that in terms of blocking. And there's a passage in Philippians 3, and Paul talks about this, and it really just brought to my mind the issue of holding. And so I want to pick up in verse 7, and I want to read through verse 12 of Philippians chapter 3. So I invite you to read there with me. If you've never read from the letter to the Philippians from Paul, it's in the back half of the New Testament. If you have, you know it's a great letter of Paul that has a lot of great things about the gospel of Jesus and inviting us to become more and going along with Paul in that way. So he says this in verse 7. But whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. I consider them garbage, that I may gain Christ, and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own that comes from the law, but that which is faith, through faith in Christ, the righteousness that comes from God on the basis of faith. I want to know Christ, yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow attaining to the resurrection from the dead. Not that I have already attained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. And that was the piece that stood out to me as we were talking about football and just the life of faith, is that Paul recognized that Jesus took hold of him. And that image of being on the offensive line, that when we come off the line to get a good block on somebody, to get a hold of them and to push them to the right or to the left. And here Paul is speaking to that Jesus got a good block on him. That's right. And he couldn't get away from it.
It's amazing.
He couldn't get away from it. He couldn't go anywhere. And he knew that Jesus blocking him, Jesus coming into his life, was the greatest thing that he had ever come to know, and that he considered everything else a loss. He considered everything else garbage because Jesus changed his life in a great way. So as you're in Jesus, seek him. Paul says, I'm not done yet. I have not already obtained it. I'm still growing in Christ. I'm still growing with Christ. I'm becoming more like Christ. And so that never stops until the day we die. That's right. Jesus is he's always blocking us. He's always pushing us and pulling us toward himself and to become more like him by the power of the Spirit, that we would participate in his sufferings. We would participate in his resurrection and even his death. But if we need Jesus, if we are in need of salvation, know that Jesus desires to take hold of you, not in a harmful way, not in a bad way, but in a way that really shows forth his goodness, love, and mercy to change your life. Amen. And to bring freedom and to bring power and his presence. And so may you seek Christ in that just as much as one who has been following Christ for many, many days. Amen. So that's all I have.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like I said, Andy here, he's the pastor at Eastland Park here in Lexington, Kentucky. And Andy, where can we, if somebody wants to, maybe they can't make it into to service on Sunday morning, what's one way they could find your messages?
Yeah, so our service is always live streamed on Sunday on Facebook on our church page, and then also we have a YouTube channel as well. And so just look up Eastland Park Nazarene, and it'll come up. And then Wednesday night Bible studies online too. We have that on Facebook and on Zoom. And so we have different opportunities in that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Andy. Yeah. Jesus he's pushing us forward.
He's pushing us forward. That's it.
He ain't going to let go.
He's not going to let go.
All right. We're going to continue on with our picks here. For for our Sunday late games. There's only 3 late games this week.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was weird when
yeah.
I looked at what you and I were going to discuss. I was like, that's really strange. So, but yeah.
So Cardinals versus the Panthers. This is another one where I was like, I'm picking the Cardinals, but I don't feel good about it because the Cardinals just not have looked very good.
Their offense is starting to get in sync.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's why I picked the Cardinals.
Yeah. That comeback win against the Raiders. I'm hoping that sparks something moving forward.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Patriots versus the Packers. I don't know what the Patriots are going to do on offense. So
especially Mac Jones is hurt. So
Packers on this one.
Yeah, and I think the Packers are starting to get it together, especially on offense. Defense is not an issue for them, but the offense looked like it's getting where it needs to be.
Yes.
So, I got the Packers as well.
Yeah. Broncos versus the Raiders. I'm going with the Raiders. I just don't see. I mean, the Raiders are off to 0-3 right now. I don't see them falling to 0-4. They're too good of a team to be at 0-4.
I agree, and the Broncos really have not looked that impressive.
No.
I mean, they won. Was that Sunday night?
Yeah.
They won Sunday night against the 49ers on a mishap.
Yeah.
Where Garoppolo stepped out of bounds.
Yes.
To have a safety, and that's how they won the game.
Yeah.
So, I just think the Raiders, they're very angry about being 0-3. The Broncos have been lackluster.
Yeah.
So, I think the Raiders here.
Yeah. The Broncos have beat the Seahawks and the 49ers, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think so.
So even their wins, they haven't necessarily looked.
And they almost lost to the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I mean, they did lose to the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
They did. They did lose to the Seahawks.
Was it the Texans they beat then? Maybe the wins were against the Texans and the.
They only have one. They only have one win.
It's only the 49ers.
Yeah.
So, they struggled.
Yeah.
So.
See, they've been so bad we can't even tell
you.
We
can't even tell you how good they are. I know. I should have made a note about it. All right. Well, this section we're gonna move on to is called My Team Struggles, and I shared that I'm in a 12-team PPR league with some custom scoring. The custom being we give some bonus points for completions and carries and targets, just to kind of help add some drama to it, and mainly because I hate ties. Right, I just hate ties in any sport.
Yeah.
So this kind of prevents that from happening. And Andy here is actually in our league, and I think when we signed up to do the draft, he had the church pray over his computer and anoint because he was given the first pick.
I know that was beautiful. Got one of your favorite players.
Yes, jerk. So what I usually do, Andy, is I go through and I share position by position, kind of what I'm doing with. You can kind of jump in. If you're struggling with something, you have a concern about somebody else in your lineup too, and
pull it up right now.
So Andy, on the one hand, Andy's at 2-1.
Right.
I'm going to win this week. Hopefully, I'm about to win is my hope.
Yeah, and right now for me, just looking at in our league, it's 50-50. Right now, it's I'm projected 215. My opponent's projected 218.
Ooh.
So that's quite there's not a lot of wiggle room there.
No.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about the league we're in, though. There's a lot of parity. Everybody seems to know what they're doing, and it's been very competitive. So if you go in our free agency, it's a ghost town.
Yeah, I did get a good pickup this week though. I got Njoku from the Browns.
Oh yeah.
So that was that. I was surprised he was still there, but he was. So I took hold of him. Yeah.
Yes, he took hold of him and he dragged him to his side.
Considered all other tight ends garbage.
and I took Njoku.
Yeah.
All right. So my quarterback is Derek Carr. My concern for him is he's going against the 4th-ranked Broncos defense. They've got 9 sacks on the season. They're only allowing 12 points per game. But then I have to remember who they played.
Right.
They really haven't played anybody that good yet.
Right.
So my only other options are really Justin Fields, or I picked up Josh Wilson too. But I'm not sure I'm quite ready to put Wilson in the starting lineup yet.
Yeah.
And Fields, I'm going to give him another couple of weeks, but he's probably going to get the axe. So I just think it'd be silly to change from Carr at this point. So,
and I only have one QB in that league. In that league, so I have Stafford, and he's playing the 49ers, but on Monday night. But you're not going to go against Stafford. I mean, you can't. He's a must start just because of who he is and the team he's on. And I think their offense is only going to get better.
Oh, yeah.
Allen Robinson, different ones. So, and the 49ers, their defense is good, but they don't scare me, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. Because, again, their offense is struggling so much. Their defense just spends so much time on the field. Yeah. They're going to give up some plays.
Yeah.
So, at my RB1, I have Austin Eckler. They're going against the Texans. And I'm actually pretty excited about this one because they're the 32nd ranked defense. So this may be one area where maybe me picking the Texans to win was a terrible idea because
maybe that'll help you.
Yes, it help ease the pain of getting the pick wrong.
Yeah, my RB1 is Jonathan Taylor. I don't even need to speak to that. He is questionable though for some reason.
Yeah, it's a toe. It's a toe injury. Okay. I think he should play. I'd be surprised if he didn't practice today.
Yeah,
So I can't remember. Playing the Titans, so we're going to need him against the Titans. So he should get a big volume of carries. My RB2, former Steeler, James Conner. I actually had him in the flex last week because of his questionable status. For starting a game where he was questionable, he still got 13 rushes and 5 targets. So
yeah, and I heard actually on the radio this morning that they want to involve him more. So,
really?
Yeah. So I don't know if he can handle that or not, but that's what I heard. So
yeah, so I moved him back to RB2 mainly too. He's playing the Panthers, and the Panthers are giving up 4.6 yards per carry.
Right.
So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah. My RB2, which this is a struggle for me. I have Swift, but right now our league has him projected as 0. They have him really going to be out. That'll probably change, but he did not practice the early part of this week. So right now I have Darrell Henderson, which honestly you cannot really tell who's going to be the running back for the Rams.
No.
One week it's Akers. Henderson started out really hot, then it went to Akers, then it went. It's been flip-flopping back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's been a really tough one for me. But right now I have Henderson in there because Swift is not playing, and so I'm just going with the higher projection right now. I have Burkhead too, but
again,
I'll take the more high potent offense with the Rams than I would the Texans.
Makes sense. Yeah. Which that's the trouble with running backs this season is there's so many split carries, shared backfields, which it works good if you're for football purposes, but for fantasy football purposes,
it destroys. Yeah,
you don't know what to do. Yeah. My receiver 1, I have Tyreek Hill. And I'm a little concerned about it this week because he only had I think two catches against the Bills, but the Bengals aren't necessarily an easy matchup either.
No, they have good corners.
Yeah,
and good defense.
But I'm not taking him out. I'm not expecting the huge output.
Yeah, you can't. I have Diggs as my number 1 receiver, which he's my guy from the University of Maryland. So I'm always whenever I can get a hold of him, it's like yes. But he's another one he's a must start. There's no question to ask. They're playing Baltimore, whose pass defense has not been the greatest.
Which is weird to say because growing up, the Ravens defense was it. And they just haven't been it.
They've kind of been on the roller coaster. Yeah.
All right, my receiver 2 is I have Deontay Johnson on the Steelers. I'm leaving him in most likely. I am a little concerned again because Trubisky is just completing barely over 60% of his passes. Johnson's gotten good, I think at least 10 targets a game, but his catch ratio isn't great. But my other options are either Keenan Allen, who's still questionable, and if Justin Herbert doesn't play, is it even really worth it?
I will say the volume for Johnson is there, and so that's why if I were you, if I had him, I would play him because of all the Steelers receivers, he's the one that's going to get the volume.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I have Waddle as my second, and
that's just easy.
He's playing tonight, but he's more apt to be the guy to get the ball than even Hill would be.
Yes,
just the type of receiver he is.
Absolutely.
So he's a must start to me. Yeah.
So tight end, I made a change here. I had Everett from the Rams up until the last few weeks. And I jinxed him because I was like, he's been averaging 14 fantasy points per week, and then he scored 8. So I moved on. I picked up Tyler Conklin because he's the 3rd leading target getter for the Jets. He's averaging about 13 fantasy points a game. it's a gamble because of the matchup and the possible QB change, but they got to throw the ball to somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be my concern is the QB change.
Yeah.
You know, just with how that may go. But I mean, he's still going to be a part of the offense. So you got to go there. That actually is probably the tight end spot is the biggest dilemma for me in our league because I have 3 tight ends actually, but my starting tight end was Dalton Schultz, and he's out, and so he may play this week, but I'm kind of leery of playing him, especially with Dak out.
Right.
Still, so I had Hurst playing for Cincinnati, but I did, as I mentioned earlier, I picked up Njoku from the Browns, and I think he's going to be my starter this week. He's projected for more points, but he also has been a target for Brissett. And so that kind of leads me to say, let's give him the start and go from there.
Yeah. Can you imagine being a defensive back playing against the Browns? You first you're getting pounded by Chubb and Hunt, and then you have to try and tackle the Njoku too.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a long day.
Yeah, it is.
We're gonna pray for the Falcons secondary.
Yeah, they're gonna have some fits, I think.
So my flex, I have Jamal Williams. He's been on my bench pretty much all season because again he splits the carries with Swift.
Right.
But from what I've read, from what I've seen, he gets more of the red zone carries than Swift does. He's not necessarily as dynamic, I don't think, as Swift is. But if Swift doesn't play, he's only going to get more carries.
He's a must start. He's a borderline must start even without Swift being hurt. So especially as a flex.
4 touchdowns through 3 games. So
I have my flex as AJ Dillon, and that to me is a no-brainer. Between him and Aaron Jones, I mean they work well together. In fact, I would argue that of all the running backs in the NFL, if you were to have a running back on your team that you could trust with the split carries, him and Jones are really the safest bet because of how they run the offense there. And especially with the receiving core being very young or very inexperienced, those two would really just feed off one another.
Right.
Big time.
So, absolutely. Yeah. All right. My defense, I just share. I stream defenses. I just play the matchups. Unless you can get one of those top 3 tier defenses in your draft, it's just not worth it. So this week I went with the Vikings. They're playing the Saints, and I had the Falcons. They were facing Cleveland this week, but the thing about Cleveland is that Cleveland doesn't turn the ball over. Brissett takes care of the ball.
Right.
That's one of the things he's really good at.
Right.
But the Saints had 3 turnovers last week. So and then on the season, the Vikings have 3 interceptions, a fumble recovery, and 7 sacks so far. So I'm feeling pretty good with that matchup on defense.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of funny in fantasy football with regard to defense. I'm kind of the opinion, set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And so, I have the 49ers defense, and if they do anything, they do anything, and if they don't, they don't.
Right.
That's just always been my strategy. Now, can sometimes a defense win you the game? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But my thing is, if you're relying on defense and a kicker to win you the game,
you're in trouble.
Your roster is really not very good. I count it all garbage. That's really the matter.
Yeah. My kicker is Ryan Suckup. He's who I named my team after. Right? Don't be a Suckup.
Yeah.
So he's got the Chiefs. Again, kicker's kind of that way for me. I kind of said, don't worry about it until they're on bye week, and then you have to worry about it.
Yeah. And I have Bass from Buffalo, and my key with having him was the fact that he's on a team that kicks field goals, and also they get extra points because they score a lot of points. And so, guess what? You're going to get points from your kicker. So it only makes sense to have a guy like that. Yeah. So he's one. I'm not going to fool with him until there's a bye week, and then deal with it then. So, but he's definitely not getting dropped.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, I'm at 0-3. So I'm feeling pretty good this week, though. I feel like I'm going to get that first win. I'm projected to win for the first time, and my opponent's 2-1. But if you look at our league scoring, he's actually the lowest scoring team in the league. Figure that out.
Oh, wow. So he squeaked by somehow. Yeah, that does happen every now and again.
So
yeah.
Andy here's at 2-1, but your division is tough. Like
it is.
So
yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I need some of my guys to really show up. It is going to hurt me if Swift doesn't play.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that for sure, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
And you just have to go on with it. So yeah.
So what about you all? What are you struggling with this week? What picks are you making? Message me, let me know. I'd love to help you. If you have any questions about faith, send those in too.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a link in the show notes that you can click to send a message in. Let's move on to our primetime picks. Chiefs versus the Buccaneers. This is a tough one. I'm going with the Buccaneers. Even though their offense is struggling right now, their defense is just stout. And the Chiefs they struggled with the Colts defense last week. So,
yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs here. I don't really like the Bucs a whole lot. I think their offensive line is really showing its holes. That's not to say they can't get better.
Right.
I think the frustrations of the Chiefs, though, will propel them to a win. There was some controversy over that reality for them with the frustrations, and so I think that'll get them a W here. But plus they play really well in prime time too.
Yeah.
Not to say that Brady doesn't either, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Rams versus the 49ers. I went with the Rams. I don't think the 49ers have the offensive firepower to keep up.
No, and then they're missing Wilson right now, running back, and I could see it being a close game, but I just see the Rams pulling out. It does help that it's at the 49ers.
Yes.
That does help them instead of being there in LA. But overall, I think the Rams take care of business.
Same.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else you'd like to share, Andy, before we call it an episode here?
No, just looking forward to, tonight's game, see what happens with that. And, I know this area is excited about tonight's game, with it being the Bengals. And, it's always great when you get to live in an area where a team is considered mediocre, and then all of a sudden they have a really good year, and then everybody and their brother comes out of the woodwork that they are a fan, right?
Yes.
And so that's been the way it has been here in the Lexington area. But it's always fun to watch Thursday night football.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking fantasy football. I actually have a fantasy hockey draft tonight. Getting ready for that. So that'll be in the midst of watching Thursday night football. So awesome. Fun times.
Yeah. And like I said, if you have any questions about faith or football or anything like that, please send them in. Make sure you check out my other podcast, the Dirt Pass Sermon Podcast. That's available in all the podcasting apps. You can also find it at the dirtpasssermonpodcast.com. That's where you can send messages and things like that. And also follow me on TikTok. I'm the Dirt Path Pastor on there. I do some daily devotional videos. So please check those out. And we will catch you on Tuesday. At least I will on Tuesday. We'll recap and we'll see how Andy and I both did. So, see you next time.
See ya.